for your interest in Precise for Sybase. The goal of this short video is just to provide a brief overview, whet your appetite. We'd invite you to request a meeting to look at the solution a little bit deeper. Let's go ahead and get started. This solution tracks SQL statement execution once per second. It basically paints a picture of what the SQL statements are doing as they execute. The contention between SQL statements for resources will show what resources are in short supply, which will indicate where the bottlenecks are on your system. We offer real-time alerting. We have a history, so you can do long-term reporting, and that gives you also baselines and therefore deviation from baselines. Precise allows you to drill down on the top 10, plus you can isolate by program, machine, by user, and that allows the DBA to look at things more from an end user or application perspective. We track all execution states, including locking and wait states, so you can always find the issues with Precise. Let's take a look at the expert view. Now in this example, we're in the dashboard and we're looking at just one Sybase instance that's running on AIX, and you can get some basic information about what's going on. Over here, we're looking at over time. That's the x-axis. The y-axis is the where the SQL statements are spending the time. The dark blue, referring to the key, shows us that we're using the CPU. In total, all of these execution states are the total execution times of the SQL statements. The first, or the next stop, is the current tab. Current tab shows us what's happening right now, real time. Now, I kind of think of this as kind of like a picture, because this is just what's going on right now, whereas the activity tab shows us what's going on over a longer period of time. And so I can drill in here, I can focus on which databases are the busiest, which time frame, and so I can automatically adjust the time frame by just highlighting and clicking zoom. That's one of the nice things about Precise. It allows you to drill in, drill out, so you can always find a problem. Come in, we can look at what's happening with the inventory database in terms of CPU, storage, any kind of lock, etc. I can then focus on the inventory database, and what I've done is I've filtered on just the batches that are running within that database. Okay, so within the inventory database, these batches are executing. Focusing on the top batch, Precise reveals the SQL statements that it submits, and they're presented in resource consumption descending order. So it bubbles up to the top. What are the top resource consumers? And you can see here the dark blue shows that it's using CPU. I can come over and reveal the text of that batch, so I can actually see, I'm looping through here and I'm executing these individual SQL statements. I can also present scalability. And what scalability does is it looks at the number of executions in red and it overlays that with the average execution time. Now, if the number of executions and the execution time go up simultaneously, that shows that you're not scaling within Sybase. And so you would definitely want, in a QA situation, you definitely want to take a look at that before you rolled out to production. And to investigate a particular SQL statement, what I'm able to do is click on the Tune button, and that throws me into this workspace where I can then take a look at the execution plan, the tables that are accessed, the indexes and columns. I can get into statistics, what's heavy on the system. I can also locate where a particular step is executing, so that allows me to really kind of figure out exactly what's happening within an execution plan. There are a number of additional things that I can view within Precise. I can come in and I can look at, well, what are the objects on my system? One of the things about Precise is it captures the SQL statements. You may have noticed that one of the tabs is a history. And because we have the SQL statement and the execution plan that connects us to the objects, we can actually do correlation and kind of show what's happening on your system. So we can drill in, we can take a look at, as an example, the stock table, and then reveal the SQL statements that go against the stock table and present them once again in descending order. So what's the heaviest SQL statement against the stock table? And you might reveal commonality in the where clause, which would kind of tell you that, you know, hey, a particular index might be helpful and address the usage patterns for the majority of the SQL statements. So we can talk about that, how to have an ideally optimized system as well. Next up is statistics. Statistics is going to give you a nice overview of what the usage of the Sybase instance, CPU, connections, transactions, and we can then drill in on all of these different components and come in and actually look at the wait events. All of the wait events are tracked over time, and so that you can basically see how all of these metrics trend. Precise also has alerting. The alerts are divided into individual sets, and the way I think about this is the status is kind of, is it available? How is it configured? But then we also have load, because typically a idle system doesn't really have much contention. Everything runs very smoothly. But as load increases, then performance degrades, and then finally you start to cross, you know, kind of hard lines in the sand. So these alerts work together to allow the DBA to know when a problem is developing and become proactive or get an early lead on solving a problem. I actually think of proactive a little bit differently. I think of it as maintaining a high performance environment so you avoid alerts altogether. Looking at the general behavior, you can see just a quick description. This will actually show each of the samples. Every one of them did not exceed a warning or critical level. And what general behavior does is it looks for non-productive wait states. So it's a good way to gauge if the environment is in a healthy execution state, if it's serving the application well. Precise also tracks the infrastructure. Whether you're running on physical or VM, Precise can monitor what's happening for CPU, memory, I/O. We have a plugin for vCenter which will detect contention. So if you're not getting CPU or memory for your particular guest VM, Precise will notify you of that situation. So in summary, Precise provides 24/7 monitoring. We start at the server level. Precise is always on. It's tracking the SQL statements, what the execution states are. So if you have locking or waits, we can tell that. Precise allows you to drill down so you can isolate problems from an application or end user perspective. The Precise solution can be expanded to end-to-end. So if you'd like to actually see the end user transaction from click to disk, you can do that with this solution. You saw dashboards, you saw alerts, and reporting, and so Precise can provide information for all stakeholders. This was kind of a high-level overview, and once again, we do invite you to take a deeper dive. Thank you very much.